Good evening. My name is Bob Connors. It's 7 p.m. I'd like to call the May 2nd meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission to order. Sam, can you read the remote open meeting law preamble and take a roll call vote of the members present?
Yes. All right. As a preliminary matter, my name is Samantha Holt, Town Staff Conservation Agent for the Newbury Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Conservation Commission members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bob Connors.
Yes.
Brad Duffin is not here tonight. Diane O'Brien.
Yeah.
Mary Rimmer.
Yes.
Peter Pecos.
Yes.
And TJ Conti.
Yes.
All right, good evening. This May 2nd, 2023 open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This order suspends the requirement for the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the commission members prior to the meeting for review and were posted on the Conservation Commission webpage for public access. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Proponents will be given 10 minutes to present. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. After they conclude their remarks, we will go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. For all attendees except commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using the mute button or your phone using *6 to toggle mute and unmute when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care to not screen share your computer unless you've been allowed to do so. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any responses, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If commission members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will see questions and comments at the appropriate time through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participants button. The list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of this participant area, you will see an option to click on a raised hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they appear listed on my screen based on when the function was selected. Each participant will be called upon to provide his or her name and address or affiliation and will be afforded 3 minutes to make comments. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. The proponent or commission members will have the opportunity to reply as needed. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. We will then continue down the list of those in the raise hand column and again afford time for responses as needed. All participants are reminded that only matters which fall into the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission may be discussed. Chat feature has been disabled for this meeting. Everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would in an in-person meeting. Disruptions that impede operations of this commission will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Further disruptions may result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene actions or comments will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote.
Thank you, Sam. All right, upcoming meeting dates, May 16th, June 6th, and June 20th. All right, team, we don't have any meeting minutes available tonight, but I know Sam's working on them. Well, we should see those soon. Sam, question, how are you doing on the previously approved like RDAs and NOIs? Are you current on that stuff?
Like getting them issued?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm so behind on meeting minutes is trying to keep up with those. Those are a little bit more important to get out the door than
first priority. No, thank you. Thank you for doing that. All right, so moving on, we have file number NCC 422, 15 Northern Boulevard, for work to add a second floor deck on an existing roof line. Sam, can you provide a project overview on this matter? This is an
Yes.
RDA team.
So the proposal is to do kind of like a roof deck. It's going to go on the existing first floor roof line. My understanding is that all of the access for all of, material staging, ladders, scaffolding, anything like that that's going to be necessary is anticipated to be from the existing first floor deck, which wraps around the house. I believe Mr. Witten is under the impression that it's not really going to be feasible to have anything on the ground to begin with, just because of the width of the deck and everything to get access. And I believe the dumpster is going to be located in the driveway. So this one is pretty straightforward.
Right. Sam, I think that Jared had included a couple of samples of what the deck he was looking at. I know there was a couple of submittals with the filing. And there's no outward expansion on this. This is all
Correct.
work being done within the footprint of the first floor deck roof.
Yep. So the existing deck, like I said, wraps around the whole house for the most part. The additional deck is going to be going right on top of the roof line up here. So it's actually going to be staying within the footprint of the existing deck. Material storage is going to be on the existing deck, and the dumpster location is going to be in the driveway. There are some photos, so the deck's going to be up on top of this roof line here. And sorry, I thought there were some pictures of the house on the front side as well, but there's some like landscape vegetation out in the front, but that's pretty much it. There isn't really a lot of vegetation around the house that has a potential to really be disturbed. Pretty much everything around the house is already disturbed anyways, in some fashion.
Okay, I see Jared here. Jared, do you want to add any comments?
Yeah, good evening,
Before we
everyone.
open this up to
Thanks,
questions.
thanks, Bob. This is Gerard Witten. I live at
Excuse
15
me,
Northern.
Gerard.
That's okay. I live at 15 Northern Boulevard, and Samantha did a great job describing the project as I've proposed to the board tonight. Essentially, this is a existing single-family structure. It's elevated on piling foundation now, and there's a deck that wraps around the house. So over the past winter, I experienced some water damage, and I'm going to be redoing the siding on the east-facing section of the house. And in doing so, would like to add a 4 by 8 foot deck over that existing first floor roof line. And that will both provide an additional point of access and egress under an emergency situation, but also just allow some viewing of the ocean from that side. So the existing area that is parking right now is where the contractors informed me they don't actually have a formal dumpster per se. I guess this is a trailer that they've converted into a dumpster or something like that. So it takes up even less of a footprint, and it's something that they take with them during the days of work, as I understand it. And then the materials that would be used for this project would be stored on the existing deck on the graphic that Samantha has up on the screen. And there was that one picture that I included to show you the placement of where this deck would be. No interior changes to the house itself, no expansion to the footprint. And since most of the work would be conducted either from inside the house and the remainder coming from the outside of the house there, I won't need to touch any of the ground during the construction. In fact, it would be very difficult to access that section from a ladder, just given the way that the house is structured. So I would look for the board's favorable support of the project, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let me open up this questioning. Mary, any questions for Gerard at this time?
Just, you didn't mention any stairs, so I assume that there are no stairs leading down to the lower deck. Is that correct?
No, not correct. Not constructing any stairs. This is really just purely for access from the second floor to walk out onto the deck, and
Okay.
there won't be any means to get down to the first floor.
That was my only question, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Pete, any questions for Gerard on this one?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. TJ, any questions for Gerard?
No questions.
Diane, any questions for Gerard on this?
Nope, looks good.
Okay, so the only suggestion I would make, Gerard, you mentioned you're gonna be doing some siding work as well. Sam, are you comfortable including that in, you're putting in the deck? We always seem to have a gap in the description of the work, and it adds some angst to us after the fact.
Okay.
It sounds like tying in the deck into the house, you gotta do the siding work, but it would seem to me that I would incorporate all of what you're trying to do, Gerard, so that we're not revisiting this thing down the road.
Yeah, in fact, that was, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that I heard what you said right. You said add the siding work, basically the siding work and like the door and everything into the.
Yeah, it just make the description as accurate as you can, so
Okay.
that we're not getting any, any concern from anybody after the fact. Is we certainly know can happen, but
Is very fair.
okay. All right,
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. Sam, any follow-up with you for Gerard?
Not from me.
Do we have any raised hands from the public?
We do not.
Okay, is there a motion to issue a negative determination for 15 Northern Boulevard?
So moved.
Do we
Second,
have it? Okay,
I would also
Yeah.
move to add a couple quick conditions, if that's appropriate.
okay.
Um,
What would you like to add, Mary?
Just to add any additional work. Any additional work not included in the determination requires consultation with the conservation agent prior to commencement. And that all materials, all construction materials be stored on the existing deck or driveway,
Okay.
just so that we include them in the document.
No, very good suggestion, Mary. Gerard, what we find out is anytime you open anything up on Plum Island, it seems to be more work than less work, so.
Let me ask
point
you
is,
a quick question for you, Bob. The water leak that has happened, we don't know what's behind the siding, and so that's what I
that's the
think
point.
the construction folks want to address. Now, if they find any kind of deterioration in the wood, it doesn't change the nature of my project, but is that something you'd like me to come back and report to the board or report to Samantha or?
I think if you check in with Samantha, I think that's the intent. And
Okay.
Sam is our eyes and ears certainly between meetings. And but that way there, you know what, it trust me, we wasted more time on some of these things with descriptions than after the fact, so.
Okay.
After you guys take a vote, I want to make a quick note on that point, but it can wait.
Okay, well, you know what, any other questions any other suggestions we want, Diane, anything that we can add to this so that this is one and done for Gerard and us?
do you promise that you will not do anything more to your house?
Absolutely. I'm
Okay,
familiar with what can happen by the proximity of my house and other projects.
we thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I just want to do this small project.
okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna call for a roll call vote. All those in favor, say aye. With Mary's suggested conditions. Mary,
Yes,
TJ,
Aye.
Pete,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes,
and Bob Connors votes yes. Good luck, Gerard.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, and hope your evening tonight goes quickly.
Well, I think we wish that as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, team, next order of business is a public hearing. It's.
Can I
Yeah, excuse
make
me,
a
Sam,
quick
yes.
note? Sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
So in light of recent events with projects being done beyond the scope of what was approved, because I know, especially with orders of conditions, the special conditions are so long. I know a lot of people don't read them. I usually go over them with people, especially if they're unfamiliar with the process and everything. But I have drafted a cover letter to go with all newly issued permits, RDAs, orders of conditions, ORADs, everything that comes out of here is going with this cover letter that explicitly states if anything changes, even if it's minor and you don't think it's going to have any impact on anything to do with conservation, just ask me. I do not care how small it is, just ask.
Yeah.
I would rather cover it than not cover it.
Yeah, I would suggest though, Jared mentioned that they're gonna be installing a door certainly and modifying that exterior wall in some fashion. Just incorporate that all into the RD, and I
Right.
think that'll be good. And okay, anything else, Sam, before we move on?
No, I'm good.
And I think that's a great idea on the cover letter.
Thank you.
And well, and I think the only other thing too is if the building permit gets modified for whatever reason,
Right.
I think you can handle that one as well. If it gets beyond a certain scope, then you can make the call whether
Yeah.
it should come back. So, okay, thank you. All right, DEP file number 0501391, 68 Green Street, Lot 2. Request to amend the order of conditions issued on August 18th, 2022 to include a revised grading plan. This, Sam, was the one where they wanted to put the retaining wall in the backyard.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So they've changed it a little bit, and I'll bring up the plan. So they are at the buyer's request. They did change the plan a little bit. They are, instead of putting the retaining wall out, they're just going to extend the grading out a little bit. Based on the measurements that I had, it doesn't appear to be going beyond like 45-ish feet. Originally the grading was set to end at around 55 feet, right around in this area was where it was originally supposed to stop. So it's extending about 10 feet beyond what was originally approved. And
Okay.
the erosion controls are going to be a little bit closer as well.
Is anyone here from the applicant to answer questions?
Yes, we have the applicant and we have representation. Matt Steinell is here.
Okay, so Matt, I'm assuming you'll be answering questions starting off.
Absolutely. I'm here to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, Mary, why don't we start with you? Or Matt, do you want to give us a quick presentation and then we'll start questions, or?
I was all prepared to do so, but Sam did a fantastic job covering pretty much the extent of this, so I won't waste too much time of the board, the commission's time here. It's exactly as Sam said, we're just extending the grading around the foundation at the potential buyer's request, and to extend it out an extra 10 feet and eliminate the cost of a wall, it seemed the right thing to do, and the owners didn't want to deal with mowing it and having a drop off there, and considering it only pushed it out an extra 10 feet, we eliminated the wall, and that's the product that you see before you now.
Okay, Mary, why don't we start with you? Any questions for Matt on this one?
Yeah, Matt, what is the slope there?
So this is a 3-to-1 slope. It's a
3-to-1.
pretty standard slope up the side of like leach fields for mowing purposes.
Okay, thank you. And then my only concern is, in terms of, future maintenance of the yard, how do we delineate the limit of work here along the silt fence line? They're not permitted to do work beyond where the silt fence is shown on your plan, but that's a temporary feature. So how do we let the homeowner know that they are not to be doing any vegetation clearing along that wetland edge?
Well, I suppose that would be open to the commission to decide what they would feel is appropriate. At this point, we're not proposing to clear any vegetation, and anything that they're supposed to do should be brought before the commission anyhow. But if the commission wanted some type of markers, I'm sure we could put a row of boulders or something near the toe of the slope to kind of delineate the limit of what would be a mowable area. Or alternatively, we could put up some type of a granite post with a conservation placard on it or something like that along that there. So kind of at the discretion of the commission what they would prefer, but there's a few different ways we could actually handle that.
Sure, and I would be fine with any of those, including landscaping, shrubs or some kind of a border there that actually delineates your limit of work. From like the corner of your grading, so where it intersects the 50-foot buffer zone to the essentially to the property line. east to the property line. So I would be amenable to any of those things, but that was my comment, Bob, is I just think that we need to
No, absolutely, Mary.
anticipate future encroachment that happens in these cases, and without
Sure.
any clear boundary that will eventually occur.
Mary, you know, the idea of having a stone barn or even a 4x4 with a placket on it really adds clarity to the limitations of where they should be mowing or disturbing too. But- Okay, Mary, I'll circle back with you. Let me go through everybody. I see Jenny has her hand up. Jenny, I'll get to you after we answer questions. We get questions from the members. Pete, any questions on this one for you?
No, I appreciate the comment of either stone or some sort of shrubbery, and as we go forward, keeping this in mind with other projects as they occur.
Yep. Thanks, Pete. TJ, any comments on this one?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, Diane, Squire O'Brien, any comments on this one?
What kind of ground cover is over from the house down to the fence? What kind of the graded area? What's over it?
So it would be
Yes.
loamed and seeded to ensure that it didn't erode out. We would put down seed with a hay mix of some sort that would allow the grass to germinate. And once the grass took hold, that could be raked up, and then you'd have that surface there without the erosion potential.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that the owners weren't interested in mowing, so I thought there might be something else that was going down there. So that's okay.
No, the 3-to-1 slope that's there is
could
actually such that it makes it possible to mow it without it being too steep. That was the comment. I may have mixed that up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Sam, I'm going to circle back with you. Any questions on you? And what would you recommend, Sam, on the signage between? What would you think would be the most helpful? for future
Honestly, I think there's a number of good options. I think, you know, if they happen to have enough boulders on site, or if they want to bring some in and put them down on that line, posts are a great option. I have some, if I'm sure Matt has seen them before, in both in this and his work as a commissioner, that but I have some examples of some placards and stuff that can be put on like the 4x4 posts. Or, you know, even if you guys are open to it, even, you know, some like post and rail fencing too, if that's something that you guys are okay with. Is that something that, you know, I can put the condition in to require some sort of permanent marking to delineate that limit of work, subject to review and approval by the NCC or its agent? So that ideally it's something that maybe wouldn't necessarily have to come back in to be approved before they put it in. Is that something that you guys are okay with me reviewing before they install it?
Yeah, I think any of the above is fine with me. I'm going to circle back to Mary. Mary, what are your thoughts? Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, I think we can add a special condition to that effect, but it just,
Okay.
you'll have to include a figure or something showing where this fencing is intended to go.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if you wrap it a little bit around the 50-foot line right there and follow your erosion control barrier, and then where it curves, where it angles to the south, you would just continue it along that 50-foot line. And
Matt,
put,
I
So,
think I just gave you control, hopefully.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you
Matt.
guys can see this here, I'm kind of drawing a purple line just along that section of silt fence. So what we would probably suggest, unless you wanted to
and
extend
then
it a
just
little
go
further.
straight from that where it angles, it goes straight to the property line there.
So take it from here and just go straight and end it right there.
Yes, like more or less. Yeah, I think that would be sufficient.
And then back here, I mean, we could even push the erosion control a little bit and just kind of bring it back to a point where, you know, it makes sense here.
Yep.
We get the well in the back here, but we just give you a straight line right in here and maybe space something, you know, every, 40 or 50 feet along that line. And we come up with a plan, a little pencil sketch, nothing that's really official that we could give to the commission to stick in the file that would show, the material, whether it's post and rail or an alternating material like a boulder and then a shrub and then a boulder and a shrub and then.
Right. And I
Something that
think
looks
if
nice.
you made it a condition that be provided prior to the pre-construction meeting, that's required as part of the standard order of conditions, that would be fine.
Perfect.
Diane, you had your hand up. You have a question, Diane?
Yeah, when I put it down, I just wanted to be sure we weren't requiring that he be putting placards and permanent fencing basically in the backyard. Permanently I lost.
I was proposing some kind of demarcation of the limit of work. They can always come back, and if there's work that they want to do within the buffer zone that's beyond that, they'd have to file a notice of intent for that. But just to be clear, during the clearing activities that occur at the site and the initial maintenance of the property, that there be something there, boulders, shrubs, fencing, to mark that line in purple, so that they would know that they don't have permission to do any vegetation clearing beyond, they're closer to the wetland than that line under this
Okay.
filing.
And, I agreed with that. I just didn't know if we were making them put in a permanent fencing of some sort.
Yes, that would be the idea.
And it seems Matt is agreeing to that. They'll figure it out, Diane, at the pre-construction meeting, whether it's going to be rock landscape, split rail, or some placards on 4x4 posts, but.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Jenny, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
I have a couple concerns. This is directly right behind my house.
Yep. Jenny, do me a favor. You just please give us your name and your
Yep,
address for the
Jenny.
record.
Jenny Noyce Thompson, 4 Noyce Lane, Newbury, Mass, direct abutter of the property. My house has been here since 1985. I've seen what happens out behind me every time it rains. And if you've been, you should have come today after all the rain we've been having. It's pretty low and wet out there. And I have concerns about them filling the property in order to put a house in there and have a foundation. It's pushing it off out into the wetlands, which I know that there's a fence there now that's been there for a while, a silk fence, basically hay or whatever. I have concerns of the 100-foot wetland buffer zone going through the middle of the house where the house is proposed right now. The way I've dealt in government for 36 years, and I don't know if I've ever seen them allow somebody to put a house with a 100-foot buffer zone goes through the middle of the house. So I'm concerned about the fill. I have 2 huge piles of dirt out behind me now in the field that I guess is going to be used to fill the lot. And for me, that's allows concerns of runoff from that fill going out into the wetlands. I grew up on Green Street, and I worked on the farm when it was a farm, and I rode horses through the field. I milked the cows. I did all that stuff, and I know how wet it gets out there. And I just have always had concerns about this construction on this particular lot. The other 2 lots, they're on uplands. They have, there was ledge they had to break through. There was all kinds of stuff. This lot has always concerned me, and I'm concerned that it's going to cause problems with runoff into my property. We have a pond up the street. Right now it's full, it's overflowing. And both leach fields are on my side of the construction. I've met with Mike, the contractor, like he told me, don't worry, it's not going to cause additional property, issues with you, but I still have concerns. And seeing that the well is right near the actual line of where the silk fence is there now, that concerns me too. My well is 505 feet deep. It's in the front of my house. I have no idea how deep this well is gonna go. But hopefully it's not gonna be causing problems with my well. I just have a lot of concerns and I just wanted to present them to the board and get some response back. And also about they show, you know, the roadway was supposed to be a gravel road. It's a homeowners association. They're all supposed to be paying to keep this road, you know, dirt and gravel and whatever. And now I saw on the thing that they want to pave the driveway, and they're showing the driveway going from behind the second house all the way down to this house. And in some ways I don't have a concern because I think that having it paved might be better for me with dirt and as far as dust and all that. And that's why we ended up paving all of our property right away and road and everything. We were going to keep it dirt. We were going to stay natural. We were gonna, and it didn't really work. But I just have questions on, is the roadway going to be paved from where all the way down? I have concern about the fill, and I have concern about the leach fields both being near wetlands on our property.
All right, Ginny, why don't I stop you there if I can? And Sam, you had your hand up first, and then Mary, I'll go to you if that's okay.
Yep.
So I just wanted to note, typically, while I do greatly appreciate, you know, and understand any concerns that you have, Ginny, typically with amendments, we aren't looking at the whole project altogether. When an amendment is done, we're only looking at the revised work. So right now we would only be looking at that grading area that's within the 100-foot buffer zone. The construction of the house has already been approved. This was, I believe, approved back in August, I think was what,
Yeah, August
what I
18th.
listed. So
Which I never got notified of that hearing.
I mean, I can check the abutter listings. We should have those still in the file. But those would have gone out back when this was originally filed for, which probably would have been sometime in July.
Yeah.
But the construction of the house has already been approved. That's already been discussed. And since that's not part of the revision, it's not part of the amendment, it's not really something that we can get too much into from what I understand, and Mary might be able to.
Yeah, let me do this, team. I'm going to jump to Mary. Ginny, I know your hand's up, but I want to hear what
Oh.
Mary has to say.
No, you can take.
No, I was going to say the same thing that Sam said, that it's an amendment, so we are only looking at the grading. And I appreciate the concerns, although some of the activities that she was describing, the well and the leach field, are outside of our jurisdiction. So we don't really have any, and the paved driveway, we don't really have anything that we can say about those things, since it's not within an area that is subject to our review. We can only look at the wetland and the 100 feet from it. So that was my only point.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go around again. Pete, any questions or follow-ups on this one? No. Okay, TJ, any comments or questions
Nope,
that you have?
nope.
Diane, how about yourself?
Nope.
Okay. Matt, do you want to respond to some of Ginny's concerns, limited to the scope of work that is identified within the amendment?
Sure. So real quickly, Ginny, the area that we're talking about changing on the plan from what was previously approved is essentially on the side of the proposed home closest to the wetland. This was originally a walkout in back of the house that's greater than 100 feet from the wetland, so we're putting some fill in there as well, but that's greater than 100 feet. And the well is out back, is far away from your leach field, so we don't anticipate any impacts to our well from your leach field, and vice versa. Our leach field is more than 100 feet from your well, so our leach field shouldn't impact your well at all. So really, we're just looking at the area that's to the side of the house nearest the wetland. As it relates to the driveway, it is currently proposed as gravel. I do know that there was a buyer interested that had questioned whether or not they could pave it, and I believe that they're currently looking into seeing if that's even an option. But we would not be touching the roadway. It would just be a portion of or the entirety of this driveway, which is all greater than 100 feet from the wetland.
Okay, Jenny, I'm going to circle back with you. You've heard the comments. You've heard the limitations of what our scope is tonight, based on that this is an amendment to an existing order of conditions. Do you have any additional questions that either the commission or Matt could address for you or alleviate a concern?
Well, the
Let it-
application did say, the new updated application that I got said that they were presenting the brief projected description included paved driveway. That's why I brought that up. And I was just wondering where it was being paved from. So it was added on to this new application as paved driveway. So it shows the driveways, proposed driveway, like way up by one of the other houses. So is it being paved all the way from behind the other house, all the way down? And the rest of the road is just considered roadway up there and that will be gravel? Or is it just the driveway going into the garage?
That may be a very good question, Jenny. I don't think we have jurisdiction on that based on its location.
Okay, it was on your application. That's why.
And Matt, that was a possible scenario that a potential buyer was asking about.
Well, I'm surprised that that Ginny even knew about it, because again, it's not part of this application whatsoever. I
That
don't
was
know if
on it was on the abutters notification.
It should not have been. Again, it was just
Okay.
something that was floated recently in the last week. So
Okay.
Oh.
if it did, maybe it was foretelling of the future, because at the time I wrote it, I was not even aware it was a question. And the fact that it's come up now is only relevant to a recent buyer who asked a question about it. It's not even something that they've kind of put their foot down and said that they really want it. So we're not sure if it's going forward or not.
And
Okay,
that's not
That's-
before us tonight, Jenny.
that's the concerns I had. I just wanted, as an immediate abutter, I felt it was my right to, ask questions and just wanted to find out what was going on. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank
And
you.
Jenny,
Jenny.
if you have any other questions, if you want to give me a call at some point, or shoot me an email and, kind of write out what questions you have, I can at least try to point you in the right direction of people that you can ask.
Yeah.
Where things are, if anything that you have concerns about is outside of our jurisdiction, I can at least try to point you in the direction of who to talk to about that.
Okay, thank you.
Sam, any other raised hands from the public at this time?
Not that I can see.
Okay, team, do any members have requests for additional information or plan amendment or adding additional content to this notice of intent? Okay, I'm going to take everyone's silence as no. Okay, hearing no further requests for information or modifications, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion before we take a vote? Okay, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. TJ,
aye.
Pete,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes,
and Bob Connors votes yes. Special conditions, do we have any need for special conditions? Mary, what are your thoughts on that?
The only special condition that I would recommend is that prior to the pre-construction meeting on this project, if it hasn't already been held, right, Sam? They haven't, have they already done that?
For this specific project, it has not, I don't remember doing one for this one.
Okay, so let's phrase it.
Sorry, this is Mike DeSantos from Crane Properties. We had the pre-construction for the development. There wasn't a
Right, yeah.
requirement for a pre-construction for this lot, but I'm happy to have it based
Okay.
on this.
Okay, so I would just add a condition that there be a pre-construction meeting.
Yes,
Prior
perfect.
to the commencement of work. And second, that there would be a a plan presented at that meeting identifying how the limit of work will be permanently delineated in the area identified in the sketch shown at this meeting.
Yeah, Matt had highlighted,
Yeah, I don't know
Where-
if that's something you can
Yeah.
save or not, but.
Yeah.
And that the limit of work be permanently delineated with fencing, boulders, or landscaping or other methods as approved by the conservation agent at the pre-construction meeting.
all right, anything, Pete, any follow-up on conditions?
No, I think that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Pete. TJ, how about yourself?
Nope, perfect.
Okay, Diane.
No, thank you, Mary.
Okay, at this point, do we have a motion to, I guess, amend the order of conditions as described and conditioned?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, roll call vote. TJ,
Aye.
Pete,
Yes,
Mary,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, thank you, everyone.
you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.
next matter is 1719 10th Street. Sam, did a number, is that still unassigned?
It is still unassigned and actually Doug DeShane is going to be representing them, but given the current situation with not having the file number and some additional information that DEP has requested, he has requested a continuance for this until May 16th.
Okay. All right, team. You've heard Sam's overview on this. Do we have a motion to continue the public hearing to May 16th, 2023?
so moved.
Do we have a second?
And
Okay, do we, roll call vote? All those in favor of continuing the public hearing to May 16th? TJ,
Aye.
Pete,
Yes,
Mary,
Yes,
Diane,
yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right. Now we have DEP file number. Sam, you're all set on that. You don't need
Yes.
anything else on that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm good.
thank you. Thank you, Sam. DEP file number 0501402 6 Ulgar Way, for work to demolish the existing structure and construct a new one on pilings. Sam, I know that we opened up the public hearing at our last meeting. Want to bring us up to speed where we are on this?
Yep. So from what I recall, it didn't really seem like there were too many questions about most of the project. The main question that kind of got circulated was about the buried propane tank. I did some of my own research from the floodplain management side, and I reached out to the building commissioner, Peter Burnett, regarding the building code. So basically in the floodplain, the buried propane tanks are allowed, but there are some pretty extensive requirements for having them being anchored and flood-proofed and all kinds of fun and exciting things, which would mostly get covered or reviewed rather by like myself as the floodplain administrator, Peter Burnett as the building commissioner, and Gary Downs as the plumbing inspector. So a lot of that stuff isn't really things that we would cover here. The main discussion for us would be to determine whether having the propane tank being buried in a coastal dune area and in a floodplain is something that meets the performance standards or not. So that's the main question for this commission, is to make that determination. They have been approved elsewhere on the island. There are some places where they are in place. But ultimately it's going to be up to you guys whether or not you believe it meets the performance standards. And if you think it does, if there are any necessary conditions that you would want to put on that, just to make sure that all of the bases get covered. I did add a draft of the order of conditions into the Dropbox that has a possible or a potential condition regarding maintenance and stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys got a chance to take a look at that yet. But I can throw that up if you want to see it.
The other thing, Sam, what is the status of the ZBA? Where are they at on their ZBA filing? I think that was one of the matters too, that they wanted to continue this because I don't think they had closed out their ZBA filing on their.
I'm not sure. Matt might be able to answer that better than I can.
Yes, so I can tell you that it has not been brought before the ZBA yet. The meeting is pending.
Okay.
We actually got back to meeting with you guys quicker than their first meeting was coming up. So we had two in the time that we were still waiting on their first meeting. So we didn't ask for the continuance at the last one because we wanted to get to the ZBA. We just made the comment that the continuance from the last one wasn't a big deal because we were still waiting for the ZBA. So it wasn't an issue at the last meeting.
Okay. Okay. Well, why don't we open it up to questions? Mary, why don't we start with you on this? It seems the primary issue right now is the tank in the ground or above ground. And I
Right.
know we have, Sam,
we-
thank you. You did a lot of work on this one.
So I also contacted conservation agents in Newburyport and Salisbury, and they do not allow buried tanks in those towns. At least that's what I was told from the agents. I don't believe that burying a tank complies with dune performance standards. It's not a whole lot different than certain kind of foundations that are not allowed. You have to dig it out. You have to dig out the dune to put it in. That's changing the form and volume of the dune and potentially altering vegetation, although there may not be vegetation in this particular location. So I would not be voting in favor of a project that includes a buried tank.
Okay. Well, let's open it up to everyone and see what the Pete, what's your feeling on this one?
Yeah, I also have a couple concerns with regards to being buried in this type of environment situation. And Sam, does the fire department also have to sign off on this too?
Yeah, they would.
Just who?
Yeah,
The fire department.
Fire department.
They would
usually
have to. That would have to go through, basically like when the gas fitting permit would come in, it would get tasked out to, it would get sent to me, it would get sent to the plumbing inspector, and it would get sent to the fire department.
Learning that our contiguous neighbors are not in favor of this type of situation, and we would be altering it significantly. That has a concern.
Okay, thank you, Pete. TJ, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yep.
Yep.
I agree with Mary and Pete. I don't think we should go down that road. If somebody has one that's already buried, as Sam said, there are some already on the island, to maintain them or to replace them. I think we should get them back above ground.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Diane, what are your thoughts on this?
I had some questions. If you look at the plan, it said like that the installer or the manufacturer would be giving information about buoyancy of the tanks and all that, but it seems like, at least I haven't seen anything as far as how this would actually work if it was in place, as far as like the maintenance and the venting and the filling, and like, would there be constant interaction around this, or is it something you put in and then just don't look at again and cross our fingers?
Well, typically what happens is there's an excavation, and for a visual, if the tank is 10 feet long, you're going to see a concrete pad that's ballast that's going to be 4 feet wide, 10 feet long by 12 inches thick. And to Mary's point, that's where you're getting into, you're displacing the dune, and you're adding that. That's the requirement of FEMA and Fire Marshal's office, that if it's buried, it has to be able to be completely covered in water and not be buoyant. So to offset that buoyancy is the ballast, which obviously is an intrusion into the existing dune.
How would it be maintained?
I think over a period of time, these are not uncommon. But you could have, you would excavate and repair it or replace it. I think would be the normal course. I don't know if that, I mean, I've seen these a lot of times. You see them in a lot of residential subdivisions, certainly not in a coastal area like this. And they seem to be problem free, but I think Mary's point is you're going to be altering the dune, you're removing sand and you're putting concrete in, and what impact does that have? Is
Yeah, I had
that's
the
pretty
same-
much the case, Mary?
Yeah, I mean, you got to dig it all out. You got to put that
Right.
material somewhere, you know,
Right.
you see you're altering a big chunk of the property just to do that work. And then you've got excess material, you're changing the volume of the dune. I mean, whether or not it's been done in other locations, I don't know. I just my opinion that it shouldn't be.
Okay. Why don't I circle back to Matt?
Yes, so just to touch on a couple points that the commission's made. Salisbury doesn't allow the tanks in for a very specific reason. They have natural gas that runs down every single road on the Berry Beach. There's no need for the installation of propane tanks on those sites. So it's not a matter of them not allowing them because they have a problem with them. They're not necessary. I have several sites, both in Newburyport and Newbury, where these have been approved and they have been installed. So even on the Newburyport side, we've gotten these approved. And on the Newbury side, I sent several examples over to Sam showing where there are ones installed and there are ones pending installation that were of recent approvals that have allowed them. The tanks do need to be weighed down. There are buoyancy calculations, and the tanks are manufactured to meet national standards for buried tanks so they don't deteriorate underground, they don't leak. They're double ballast or double walled so that we don't have leaks in them, and they have to meet specific standards for the fire department, and they're heavily engineered because these things are designed to be underground and not to have problems. We all know when you're messing around with gas, if it's not done right, it can be catastrophic. So there's heavy oversight in the manufacturing and installation of these tanks under the federal guidelines that oversee this. So it's pretty common practice, even if it's not common on Plum Island. It's pretty common practice for them to be buried. The manufacturer does provide the buoyancy calc requirements, and they provide all the federal and state certifications that are necessary to show that the tanks are manufactured to the correct standard and can be buried without degradation. So we don't share the same concern that some of the commissioners may have with the tank being buried. The fact that several of these have been approved, not only by this commission, but by others, and the fact that this one has gone through DEP without any comments, I feel that it does conform to the dune performance standards. And if it didn't, I feel that DEP would have commented on that.
Sam, were there any technical comments on this one from DEP on any matter?
Not last time I looked. Give me 1 second.
Diane's
There
shaking.
isn't-
Diane's
yeah, there
shaking
isn't
her
anything
head.
additional right now. I just reloaded it, so there's nothing additional at the moment.
Mhm.
Oh, look at that.
Does the 2,048 square feet of coastal dune impact that's shown or alteration that's shown, is that the house? Does that include the area of the tank, or is that just the house?
It's the area of all proposed impacts, including the tank, the house, everything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Matt, I'm sensing that if you dig in on the tank tonight, we may be continuing this, or if you're looking to come out with a favorable opinion tonight, how important is this tank being underground to your client?
Well, they really, I think, indicated they would like it when I spoke to them this past week. And given that I found significant information to show that it was allowed, I didn't anticipate as much pushback. So I don't know that they're on the line tonight. Whether they, let me just look here. I suppose I don't see them here. If I could, just real quick. Could I ask that if the next item on the agenda is there and ready to present, could I ask you table this till after that one? And I will attempt to reach out and call them and get an answer on that. And then perhaps after the next agenda item, we'll have an answer and we can move forward with this.
Okay. Team, does that sound, we'll put a hold in this and let Matt talk to his client and circle back after our next hearing? Or actually, what else do we have after this? Okay, Orchard Street.
I don't know whether they want to do it or not matters their decision, so I'm not sure that's.
No, you have a good point, Mary. Matt, it seems that the majority of the members polled have a concern on placing this tank underground. And the likelihood is that that's going to be the one item that's going to not be allowed on this order of conditions.
I understand, and I'm just saying with due respect, it's the applicant's decision as to whether to move forward with the vote the way it is. Whether they get a favorable decision and they're good, or they get a negative decision and they appeal it, it's their choice how they want to proceed. So I've really got to run it by them first. So if we wouldn't mind tabling it, that would be the easiest for me to just verify with them that they're willing to pull it from the plan before we move forward.
Okay. So team, are we okay with, we'll just put a hold on this, go to our next public hearing? Mary, you okay with this? Pete?
That's-
Diane?
I had a question.
Okay.
Matt, or whoever, if you don't bury the tank, would you be basically placing it on top of the dune in the same place?
Essentially, you would have the above ground bottles that would be placed on, on the surface and hooked up that way. The concern is with the bottles like those, they're not as large, so you're getting more deliveries more frequently. They're also not tied down and as safe in a flooding situation. There's probably something that can be done to ensure that they don't float away in a normal circumstance, but below ground, ballast down with the soil on top, we know the tank's not going to shoot out of the ground and we can secure it. I don't know enough about the bottle tanks above ground as to what the method for tying them down or ensuring that they stay in place during a flood. I'd have to find that out.
So would the idea be that you bury the tank and then put dune grass, like refill the dune in and then plant over it, dune grass or something?
So that it would be revegetated. Once the sand was in place, it would be revegetated. You'd have like a little riser sticking up that would have for access.
Okay. Do you know, Matt, you may not know this, how do they fill the tank? Is that done by entering the dune, or is it done from inside the house, or I have no idea.
It's done from the tank. There's a little riser, like a 2-foot round, almost like manhole cover that would stick up, and they usually stick up, anywhere from 6 inches to 18 inches above the ground. And they would go over to that there, and there would be a method for filling the tank through that.
So they wouldn't be entering the dune to do that? Or would they?
Well, they'd be walking on the dune, but they wouldn't be digging. They wouldn't be excavating to get to it. They just walk across to the riser and access it and fill it.
Diane, visualize the tank at your house, the very top round 18 inches
Yeah.
that flips open. You have a similar device, but it's at grade level. Okay, well, why don't we do this? We're going to table this, Matt. We're going to move on to our next order of business. And when we see you back, we'll just circle back with you after we conclude with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, moving on. DEP file number 1403, 170 Orchard Street, for work to construct a 4-lot, single-family residential subdivision with a 500-foot roadway, utilities, stormwater management features, and a common driveway. Sam, I know you all went out with it, get a site visit out there. Can you provide a project overview?
Yes, so during our site visit yesterday, we pretty much just walked around the property and took a look at, there were a few stakes and stuff out there that noted like the center line for the roadway, the location of the end of the cul-de-sac. There were a few spots where they had stakes locating the 100-foot buffer zone. There's a couple of spots where it kind of has a little bit of an apex. So those were noted, just so that we could see, kind of try to visualize the subdivision a little bit better. And we kind of just went over like where everything was going to be located, the stormwater system and everything. It was also noted while we were out there that they were looking at doing a revision. I'm pull those plans up right now. So I added those plans into the Dropbox last night or today at some point. I can't really remember when I added them in. But the revised plans are showing some additional work. And the part that got added is this little sort of access path right here to get to this, the area that's going to be in agricultural use during and after the installation of the subdivision. So it's just this little area. It does go into the buffer zone. I believe in the letter that was added with, or that was submitted with this revision, it noted that it goes to about 50 feet from the edge of the wetlands. So that was the added revision. And I don't think there was anything else from the site walk that I can remember that should get shared.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Does he want to do a quick recap before we open it up to further questions from the members?
Yeah,
We do
good
have a representative here. Sorry, go ahead.
No, good evening. I'm glad to be here and thank you for the summary. There was a couple of other changes that we noted.
Let me just stop you for a second. If you would just give us your name
I'm
and your
sorry.
title.
It's Bob Griffin. I'm an engineer at Griffin Engineering in Beverly, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
So just as you know, we're going through the planning board process at the same time, and we had made a couple of changes in response to some planning board issues that had come up in the last few weeks. And one of those was we reduced the number of hydrants on the road from 3 to 2, and that was done in coordination with the fire department. And then we had moved a lot line between lot 3 and 4 a little further away from Pearson Drive, just to be sure that we could install a sewer line without disturbing any of that brush. So just a couple little housekeeping measures, but I think those issues are all, well, they're not completely outside the buffer zone. One of the hydrants is in the buffer zone, one of the hydrants is out, and the lot 3 line is outside the buffer zone as well. But anyways, that was, I think, the extent of the changes, and I'd be happy to address any questions.
Okay, thank you. Mary, why don't we start with you? Questions for Bob?
Yeah, my only question is similar to the 68 Green Street question. Is at the lot 4, you have kind of a limit of work shown. Yeah, it's on your grading plan, I guess, not on this one, but and then it's not clear, what happens once the erosion control barrier comes out. How much of that lot becomes lawn versus agricultural field?
So yes, yeah. And so that line to the left of the lot 4 building is the limit of work. And the one with the 2 X's on it is the erosion control line. And I would anticipate that everything to the right of the line would become part of the yard of lot 4. And then everything to the left of the limit of work line would remain in agricultural use. And so there'll probably be some sort of fence in that general area, because that looks to be like sort of a recreational area for the owner of lot 4. But I wasn't planning to run a fence along the entire, where the limit of work goes back towards the cul-de-sac. It seems like the agricultural is sort of, below the roadway or south of the roadway. And I don't think we need a fence along that entire distance, but that was sort of what we were thinking.
Mm-hmm. In this case, there is brush and woods that kind of separate this work area from the wetland itself. So that makes sense to me, what you're describing. And the area is basically open field. It'll be, there's less of an issue for encroachment in this particular case because it's all wide open. and they're, except for the area immediately adjacent to the wetland where there's a natural brush line that provides a barrier there. So provided that natural brush line stays in place, then I think that limit of work is probably acceptable.
Yeah, no, it's our intention not to touch the brush or the woods line, just the area for that access pathway that was described.
Right. And I would just note that the access pathway is not to be paved, correct?
Just a dirt path to get the tractor from the cul-de-sac into the field.
Okay, thanks.
Pete, any questions at this point? You've probably seen this more times than the rest of us at the planning board.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate, from a planning standpoint, the intent to keep this as agricultural use. And I know that the applicant is working a couple of different avenues to maintain that. So planning is supporting that approach. So from this perspective, with regards to conservation, I don't have a concern with regards to this path being added.
Okay, thank you, Pete. TJ, any thoughts or questions on this one?
Just a question on the agricultural part as well. Is that deeded and going to stay agriculture, or is there potential that down the road that could try to be another lot?
Yeah, it's really, our intention is to get this into permanent agricultural restriction of some type. And it's unclear right now, does it become a separate lot, a lot number 5? Does it become a lease? Does it, a long-term kind of thing? So it really hasn't been decided yet, but clearly, we're not looking to try to leave the door open for residential development of that land. We're trying to make it agricultural, or keep it agricultural, really.
To keep it, okay.
TJ, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Diane, any questions for Bob on this one?
No, thank you, Bob, for the site visit. That was very helpful.
It was good to see you.
Okay, I do not have any questions. Sam, do you have any follow-up questions for Bob Griffin on this project?
Not that I can think of. Just to go back to what Mary was saying, you originally said that to do a potential some sort of permanent delineation. Was that with the tree line, the brush and woods line that's existing? Were we all set with doing an extra condition for that? Or is that something that we still want to add in?
I'm going to circle back to Mary.
I guess I came down on, I didn't think it was needed in this particular case, but I could be convinced otherwise if someone else felt differently.
I think you raised a good point, Mary, on the previous one on, what was it, 68?
Mhm.
Just having some sort of identification where the yard stops and agricultural begins. I'd support a condition that'd be worked out with the agent during the pre-construction. Similar wording that we incorporated.
Mhm.
I think that would be appropriate. All right, I'm gonna go around one more time. Mary, you're all set at this
Also,
point?
thank you. Yep.
Okay, Pete?
Yeah, I support what was just said, actually.
Okay. Thank you, Pete. TJ,
All set.
Diane?
All set?
All right, and Bob Connors is all set, and Sam, you're all set, I think.
I'm good, yes.
Okay. Do we have any raised hands from the public at this time, Sam?
Not that I can see.
Oh,
Okay. Do any
I have
members?
a question.
Yes, Diane, certainly.
Sorry. This is the one where DEP had some comments about, wait, is it?
Yes, they did
Yeah.
have some comments. I just pulled them up. So their technical comment was that the existing agriculture field is being developed. Details should be provided on how the existing agriculture field in resource areas and associated buffer zone will be restored and stabilized. But I think from my understanding, that's kind of a bit of a moot point because it's gonna be remaining in agricultural use. So it's not really going to need to be restored and stabilized, or there's not
It's-
going to be an opportunity for it.
So it's not being disturbed, so hence it doesn't require
Right.
restabilization.
And I can add that into the findings as well, that it's going to remain in agricultural use.
Okay. All right, team. Do we have any requests for additional information or plan amendment or added content to the notice of intent? And we'll talk about conditions, Mary, after, if we consider to close the public hearing, or do you want to have a chat about it now before we? What's your
I'm
pleasure?
fine closing the hearing.
Okay. Well, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
The second.
Sure
Second,
thing.
Okay, all those in favor, roll call vote, say aye. TJ,
aye,
Pete,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes.
Bob Connors votes yes. All right, discussion on conditions. Do we want to, what do we want to do? What are you thinking, Mary? Are usual conditions going to be adequate on this one?
yeah, I mean, I think, including the condition that you talked about, that would identify the limit of work in some kind of permanent fashion. Also because they're farming in wetlands here partially, and this wetland line comes in and out of brush lines and things. I think it might be a good idea to include a special condition that just reiterates what the requirements are for farmers that are farming existing wetlands, which is allowed, but they're not allowed to convert wetland into agricultural use. So the portion of those wetlands that are forested right now can't be cleared to be able to create crops and an agricultural area. So it's probably worthwhile to just include some kind of condition that states that, that the agricultural lot must comply with, the DP, I'm not forming sentences.
Yeah, it's the farming in
Yeah.
wetlands or something.
Thank
I have
you.
like 8 copies of it here.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get at. The farming and wetlands guidance that does not allow conversion of wetland into agricultural use, but allows continued use of agricultural land that's already in use.
So we should be able to determine some reference to the appropriate guideline on that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Pete, Mary, anything else before I just check with Pete and everyone else?
I can't think of anything else on this one,
Okay.
except maybe a pre-construction meeting. If that's not standard in our boilerplate, I don't know.
It is standard, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Pete, anything else that you would like to consider for special conditions on this?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, TJ, any other
Nope.
comments? And Squire O'Brien, any special conditions that you would suggest on this one?
No, most of it's just the road, so.
Okay. Sam, do you have any questions or any follow-up questions or any issues on your special conditions?
Not for me. I have the special conditions all drafted, so I will add in those two additional special conditions to that document, and I think I'm good.
Okay. All right, well, anything else, team, before we consider a motion to approve the order of conditions, subject to the special conditions and those couple of adds to it?
No.
All right. All right, do we have a motion to issue the order of conditions for 170 Orchard Street with the usual conditions and the 2 added conditions we discussed?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. TJ,
aye,
Pete,
Yes.
Mary,
yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes.
Well, thank you all very much.
Okay, Sam, do you need anything
Bob.
else on us on this one?
I am all set.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, let's circle back. 6 Elga Way, is Matt back yet?
I am. So we are going to request that the commission vote to approve the project without the tank. We'll propose to remove it at this point. I was unable to get a hold of the applicant, and so she'll have to take it as the board is willing to approve it. And if she wants to come back and try to amend it or file for a separate project at a later date, she can attempt to do that. But at this point, I don't want to delay her project. So I suggest we just remove it and move forward without it.
Okay, Mary, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but Matt, did you want to have an alternative that it be that some kind of a above ground, above 2 feet above grade structure, could be permitted? That's typically what we allow. If it's, it's got to be like the last one we did. I think it was, I can't remember what street it was on, but we just.
Yeah, it was extra
above
weight.
ground and it was on a stand, kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
Like what we would do with the generators, right?
exactly.
I mean, that would only be for a large, if you were doing a quite large tank. I was wondering about that after looking at all of the requirements for above the ground propane tanks, especially these long lineal tanks, they still require the same amount of ballast and anchoring above grade. So Matt, they're probably just going to go back to the 250 gallon typical upright tanks at that point.
Most likely, in which case it'll be on a pedestal and be somehow fixed to strap to that pedestal. So that way it would provide the buoyancy necessary.
Okay. I mean, normally it's on a cement pad. I think it was the grade elevation, Mary, we were looking at that they were going to have to alter the grade at Exeter. And to overcome that, we were putting it up. The alternative was to put it up on a pedestal. I think that was the issue because I forget what the guy's name was.
Morris
talking-
Cassidy,
Yeah, he was talking about digging in to make it flat because it was on a slope.
right?
Oh, right.
So
Yeah, usually I believe
It's on a
typically when we
precast
have,
concrete pad.
yeah, when we have propane tanks that get approved, they are usually on the ground. They're not raised.
Right.
They're installed on concrete pads, and there is the NFIP regulations and the building code regulations all have
Right. The
great
straps.
outlines of how they have to be anchored and strapped down and everything. And that's mostly on like myself and the building or the plumbing inspector to make sure that that gets done.
So team, I'm going to make a suggestion. They're going to need propane tanks. It not in the location that it's being proposed. Is that something that we could authorize, Sam, at a pre-construction hearing meeting to allow the location of the tanks based on our typical standards? They can't be within 10 feet of the building or 10 feet within a source of ignition.
Yeah, just that any vegetation that might be impacted
Be replicated.
be replicated somewhere on the property.
Okay. Matt, does that work for you guys?
It does. And we could provide a sketch to the commission at that time that would kind of better illustrate where it will go and the vegetative impact, if any.
Okay, and Sam, you can do that in your administrative section of our meetings after the fact.
But what is the size of the size of the pad that's typically required? Is it just like a 3x3 or something like that? It's not very big, right?
Yeah, usually it's a 30-inch round, 1.5-inch reinforced concrete, something you'd see under an air conditioner,
Yeah.
condenser,
Okay.
except they're round. They're okay. So, Matt, I would say that typically if they're using this year round, they're going to have 2 of these tanks with the appropriate pads. So how do we want to incorporate that just as a special condition authorizing Sam at pre-construction to approve the final location of the tanks?
Yeah, or that we include a requirement that they just submit a plan. Yeah, submit a plan for review. Is that what you just said?
I was
By
just gonna
Sam.
have Sam, if we issue the order conditions, that it would be subject to approval by Sam or the commission, a usual wording on that. And that's a
Yeah.
pretty flat lot there, so I think they should be able to find a spot.
That's good.
Okay. All right, we haven't closed the public hearing on this. I've lost my spot here. It's I'm with Pete at 8:15 at night. That we've been up a long time. Okay, so do we have any members have requests for additional information or plan amendment or added additional content to the notice of intent?
No.
Nope.
Sam, we haven't moved to close the public hearing yet, have we?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Roll call vote. TJ,
Aye.
Pete,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right,
Thank
team,
you.
we've had a good discussion. Well, we still need to approve your order of conditions or consider it. All right,
is there someone in the public that's? No, okay.
okay.
So I would make a motion to issue an order of conditions approving the project, except not, with the exception that of the not approving the buried propane tank, but allowing an above ground tank to be constructed, installed, subject to the review and approval by the conservation agent or the Conservation Commission.
Okay. And I would say it's going to be 2 tanks, Mary. That seems to be the,
Tanks. And then, and that any vegetation that is altered is required to be altered for the installation of the tank be mitigated, that every effort be made to minimize impacts to vegetation, and where it can't be avoided, that it be mitigated elsewhere on site with
okay.
suitable dune grass vegetation.
All right, so Sam, we'll be adding those to the special conditions once we determine the outcome of the order of conditions. All right, do we have a motion to issue the order of conditions for 6 Olga Way with the usual conditions and the added condition that Mary described regarding the propane tanks?
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, roll call vote. All those in favor, say aye. TJ,
Aye.
Pete,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Sam, do you need anything else from us on this one?
I do not.
Okay,
Trying to keep my notes in order.
yeah, it's shuffling a lot of paperwork these last few meetings for sure. Okay, 7, what time are we? 8:22. All right, administration. Sam's going to provide an update, team, on the Blue Hotel 18 Fordham Way. And Sam, why don't you give us a recap of where we're at on that and some of the challenges we've had with it?
Yeah, so just a brief discussion on or note on kind of what led up to issuing the emergency certificate. So when I was reviewing the regulations to make sure that I had everything in order, because I'm not familiar with the emergency certificates prior to last week, I found some stuff in the regulations that raised a few red flags for me. I reached out to the DEP circuit rider. The conversation that I had with her basically ended with that generally this wouldn't be an appropriate use of the emergency certificate. I brought that to Bob and Mary's attention. We did discuss it, the 3 of us, and ultimately the determination was that it's already been approved. It was already discussed by the whole commission. So we all agreed to move forward with issuing it. Bob was kind enough to sign off on that. So it was issued last Thursday, and the work was all set to begin. Ryan Guthrie did confirm that he had a shorebird monitor in place. His contractors were all set, so he had his emergency certificate issued last Thursday. I sent it out to him in an email and noted that when he has completed the construction to let me know. He believed that it was going to take about 2 days. He thought he was going to be able to be done by Friday or sometime yesterday or today. I did advise him to let me know when he completed the construction. He has until Thursday to finish everything. So once he's completed it, hopefully he will let me know if I haven't heard from him by Thursday. I'm going to reach out to him myself and make sure that he's all set. And then he will start the 30-day clock to get the post-construction report and photos and everything to me, which I will share with you guys once I get them in. And then he will also have 60 days to do the submittal for the whatever process. I think it kind of looks like it's probably going to be a notice of intent is what I would be more comfortable seeing. And it kind of sounds like DEP had the same feelings and maybe some of you did as well. But I can discuss that with him when we actually get into that portion. Not really something that needs to be decided right now. And I can certainly let him know to come in and discuss that with you guys as well, so we can figure out what kind of filing he should be doing. But basically the long story short is that for emergency certificates, there has to be a either declared public health or safety emergency by the DEP commissioner, or a local authority has to designate something as a public health or safety emergency. One of the most common ones that I have seen in my records is, oh no, my septic system blew up and it's in the wetland buffer zone and I need to have it fixed or replaced immediately. It has to be dug up. So we can issue emergency certificates for things like that. Or something like a few years ago, Georgie Porgy's had a similar situation where they needed an emergency certificate because a big storm came in and knocked a bunch of supports off of their footings and put the structure in an unsafe condition. They got an emergency certificate to make emergency repairs, and then they came in and did a filing after the fact to cover that. So I think that's all I got from that, and I'll let you guys know when I hear from Ryan about when he's completed the work. Like I said, if I don't hear from him by Thursday, I'll reach out to him myself and check in on that.
I had actually stopped by there Friday afternoon, Sam, and it appeared they had all of the main body of the work. They had a couple of the top handrails to put in, but
Okay.
I just haven't had a chance to swing by. I'll actually swing by there tomorrow. It's
Okay.
pretty easy for me to loop by. When I did stop by there Friday, they thought they would be done Friday or mid-morning on Monday because of
Yeah.
anticipating rain today. Okay. All right, team. Hey, listen, these emergency certs, there's a learning curve on all this stuff. And I think the trigger was stairs usually what happens. Someone's deck is in bad shape and it's an egress, a stair, or access. So we'll continue to improve our efforts on this. The other thing that Sam wanted to discuss is the alteration of meeting schedule and frequency. And
Do we want to do 49 Northern first? You might not have the most recent version of the agenda. Sorry.
oh, okay. You know what? I did get it, but I didn't print it out.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay. So on 49, Sam, they really. So yeah, well, give us a review on that, and then I'll comment on it.
So for 49 Northern, right now, the existing conditions, Tom Ryan, who is on the call with us tonight, he recently bought the property at 49 Northern. When he purchased it, it came with an existing encroachment. The deck off the backside of the property, or off the backside of the structure, is encroaching on the property behind it by a few feet. It was existing when he purchased it. Due to a dispute with the neighbor that owns the property, they're looking to remove that encroachment, so to bring the deck backwards a little bit to pull it off of the property, off the abutting property. In order to do that, they're going to need to relocate some of the footings to make that deck structurally safe. And they're also going to need to, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that pulling that back is going to basically remove some means of egress off of the second story deck.
That's correct. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We can.
One more time?
There's a bad echo.
Yeah, you know what, if we could go on mute, one of us, I'm not sure.
Is that any better?
That's better. Sam, are you getting any feedback?
I am not now.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so removing the encroachment is going to remove a means of egress. Because of that, they're gonna need to build a set of stairs, an additional set of stairs off another side of the deck, which is obviously going to include some addition of footings. It's going to increase the footprint. Well, it's going to relocate some of the footprint from the back to the left side. And I have some photos that Tom sent me that I will pull up. Oh, there we go. So the encroachment is back on this side.
Can I just point something out?
You can.
Where you're looking at the picture you're looking at right now, the blank area there is actually where I was hoping to have the second floor deck come over to meet the back side of the vinyl fence over the pea stone. So I'm going to lose more square footage than I have right now, but I'll be able to make a little up there and somehow factor in a staircase that acts as the second means of egress that I'm going to be losing.
Pictures did not come out in this. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up your actual email that you sent me because the pictures didn't save very well.
So, Tom, I think we all understand your plight, and you're not the first one in Plum Island that's had a encroachment into a neighbor. I'll be honest, you have more work that you're anticipating, and I'm going to defer to Mary on this one, Mary. This certainly, you don't have to take anything down at this point, whether the neighbor likes it or not. You're trying to be a good neighbor.
I'd prefer not to take anything down. I went into this with the understanding that I had adverse possession on my side because the deck had been located there since the 1980s. And as I understand it, one of the neighbors has pushed the issue with the former owner and come right in with me. I like it as it is. I'd rather not change it, but I don't seem to have, it doesn't appear that I have much of a choice right now. And like you said, I'm trying to be a good neighbor to the neighbors. I'm trying to be a good neighbor to the island. I'm the new guy here. I don't want to rub anybody the wrong way.
In all honesty, Tom, what you want to do is either going to require at a minimum an RDA or likely a notice of intent if you're going to start doing new construction, adding new footings. If you were just simply removing a set of stairs off the existing deck and relocating them, that would probably be one thing. Let me do this. Let me stop there. Mary, you've heard Tom give a quick summary of what he's attempting to do. What guidance would you recommend for him as a next step?
You get a consultant to help you.
Yeah, that's
put a
true.
filing together. There are a number. Sam has a list of consultants that could help you, but yeah, it certainly needs some kind of a filing. It appears, and it's a little bit hard to understand exactly what is, what is proposed from this picture, but is it the bump out in the deck that's encroaching?
The property line is right. This, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see probably. There's a sort of chicken wire fence that's going underneath the deck.
Okay, yeah.
That's where the property line is. So there's a couple feet worth of deck, a little bit extra up here with this little overhang that is encroaching on the property line.
So you'd be shortening the deck to, it looks like, say it's 8 feet wide, it's going to be shortened to probably 3.5, 4 feet wide, more of a walkway. Is that?
Yeah, and then try to wrap it around the other side. So yeah, you need a plan put together showing what you're going to do and what kind of footings you're going to use. And so I think you'd probably best bet to get a consultant and possibly an attorney to help you with this dispute.
Oh, I've had an attorney on board and we've come up with several different suggestions and ideas that I thought worked great, but every time something comes up that I think works, one person has a different idea after they've even suggested some of the ideas. So I've just thrown my hands in the air, and like I said, I want to be said and done with this, and at the same time not take away from the value, the views
Yeah.
of my property.
So I think the commission, will work with you as best we can and understanding of the situation. But we can't act without a filing, and so you'll have to.
Okay, so just help me understand this, because I haven't had to deal with something like this before, but I need to file a letter of intent with the RDA. Is that what you?
There's two different processes, and Sam can walk you through them if you want to make an appointment with her. And she can talk you through the process and what's needed, and give you some names of people that can help you with that.
The good thing, Tom, is you cannot do any work until you resolve that. So you cannot touch the deck, you cannot take it down, you cannot do any work in that area. So you're preserving your deck during this process.
I guess that's that then. I don't have a choice, do I?
You need a permit to demo it, and you need an RDA or an NOI to actually perform the work.
Can I, if I get permission to relocate those parts of the deck and put them on a temporary footing while I'm going through this process, so my property is off of his property and I still have the secondary means of egress and whatnot, would that be an issue? If one of the suggestions that was made to me and I made to Samantha was they have flat footings, kind of similar to the propane tank footings you were talking about, and you can put them down, and then when you're ready to do whatever the permanent solution is, which I hope you'd agree to being footings, I don't know. At that point, I jack part of the deck, put the footing in, and then drop it back down on it. It's common, and I've.
But at a minimum, Tom, you would need an RDA even to do that temporary work.
Okay, so I've got to go to this RDA situation no matter what.
Yeah, Sam, as Mary suggested, Sam can walk you through, and it, depending on the scope and the impact on the resource, will determine whether an RDA is appropriate or you have to do an NOI. But honestly, hiring a consultant is always the most expedient way to figure your pathway forward on this stuff.
What is the consultant doing for me? What are they? I'm not sure of this. Like, is it?
They're gonna help you go through the permit process. So they're gonna help you get a plan together and prepare the applications that are needed and get you back before us with a proper application.
Forgive my ignorance, but how is this different from any other building permit other than it's a conformity thing with conservation? Is there?
Yeah, because you need a permit under the State Wetland Protection Act and the town's local wetland overlay bylaw, Plum Island overlay district bylaw. So there's a separate review process and a separate application process for that. It's not, we can't just give you the go ahead to do that work.
Okay, so I'm at a standstill. I can't do anything with my deck, and this could take weeks, months, years. I'm not, again, I forgive my ignorance. I have not dealt with this.
Tom, I would talk to Sam. She can walk you through it. No, it's certainly not the first quagmire we've had like this. And I think work with Sam and then decide what step you want to take. I think the suggestion of hiring a consultant, it's a cumbersome process. And I think that's the best advice we can give you at this point, but we can't give you any further action tonight, other than telling you what you would like to do. You cannot do until you get proper permitting.
Okay.
Bob,
Or a negative determination. Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
just one thought I've had is if you're in a situation where you're not sure who owns the property or if someone else owns that property, wouldn't we need both signatures on the NOI or RDA? If you need the owner of the property, that needs to be determined first before.
the person that owns the property out back has told me that he will sign anything, go to any meeting and approve anything that needs to be done to take this deck that's been there since 1980 down.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to cooperate and help people out here, and I
Yep.
think I'm willing to do the same.
Great.
It shouldn't be that painful a process. Talk to Sam, and I think that's your best next step.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. All right. So team, we've been carrying forward CSO releases and considering altering our meeting schedule. There was actually an interesting article in the paper. Did I send that to you, Sam?
Don't
That
think
the state was doing something where they were getting funding. I'll dig it out and I'll send it in to Sam. But it was something I read in the Boston Globe today that was a positive step forward on CSOs. Sam wanted us to discuss tonight, do we have any appetite in changing our current schedule of meeting every couple of weeks? I'll be honest, we're basically through it at 8:30 tonight. I kind of like having meetings that are under 2 hours. And I think it's accommodating to our residents if we continue meeting as we are with the limited schedule during the holidays as we tried this year, but I'll stop there. Mary, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll go along with whatever the board wants to do. I think we talked about at one point a limited schedule over the summer months too, just July and August, because applications tend to drop off then.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know what, we can schedule meetings and then just cancel them if we don't need them, if there's nothing on the agenda, but
And the other question too was whether we wanted to change the day of our meetings, which I personally would be very much in favor of. I'm not a huge fan of having an 11-hour workday and then having to stay here to do the meetings. And I know a lot of consultants tend to have some conflicts because a lot of towns in the area meet on Tuesdays and we all meet at the same time. And when I had been doing some research on that, I looked into other boards in Newbury and the days and times that they meet. And I looked at the days and times that other town conservation commissions meet. And what I kind of came down to was that Mondays at 7 p.m. would be an awesome time for us to meet. Not a lot of towns meet on Mondays, and there's only one or two other boards that meet on Mondays in town. One of them meets once a month, and they meet at 3 or 4. So I highly doubt that would be a conflict, and it's the HR board. So something tells me we're not going to have many conflicts with them. And the other one is the recreation committee, and they meet on Mondays at 6 p.m., but they are on a different schedule. I think they meet the second or fourth Monday. So there shouldn't be any conflict with that either if we stick with the first and third Mondays of the month.
yeah, Mondays just don't work for me at all. It's probably the worst day of the week for me. We also talked about starting our meetings maybe a little bit earlier, that starting them at 6 o'clock so that overlap with other board meetings for consultants that we could be accommodating in that way, but so team, Mondays just don't work for me. I kind of like it the way it is, but we wanted to consider changing the time, moving it up a little bit to start early, get out earlier.
I could do 6.
I
Okay,
can do 6.
I can do 6.
TJ,
Yep, that works.
Pete, how does that work for you?
Sure thing.
That means we're done before 8.
Okay with that.
Okay. Well, you know what? Why don't we listen? Brad was the one who wanted to change all this stuff. He's not here, so he doesn't get a
Yeah,
vote.
that's what happens.
You
That's
know,
how the meeting.
you snooze, you lose.
Can I tell him?
So why don't we, starting July 1, we'll still meet every second Tuesday. But
First
we'll
and
start
third. Sorry,
and
first
third.
and third Tuesdays.
And we'll start at 6 o'clock and we'll try that, see how that works out.
All right,
Starting July 1st, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
starting
Yeah,
July 1st, yeah.
Okay.
it's a new fiscal year and it just,
Got it.
I think, does that give you enough time, Sam, for incoming projects?
Yeah, that should be plenty. I really wanted to make sure that we got this solidified,
Right.
ideally before June at least, so that I can give applicants and consultants plenty of time, plenty of warning, because that's going to adjust the deadline dates as well.
Bob, the first Tuesday in July is July 4th.
Yeah, I already have the schedule accommodating that. So we're not going, I believe that month we're only going to have one meeting and it's going to be the third Tuesday.
Perfect.
Because we can't have meetings on
The
holidays.
18th at
so-
6 o'clock.
TJ, don't be a quitter. We'll just have hot dogs and hamburgers available for all.
2,
but-
3. Oh, that's my
Hold
husband's
the meeting
birthday.
at Bob's house.
Yeah.
Get the grill out.
All right, team. Well, you know what? I think that's great. Let's try that. And Mary, I think starting early is going to help, like Tom Hughes and some of the other consultants that
no,
have
that's-
overlaps, that we will certainly be accommodating with schedules for
It's good
people.
with me. Okay.
And I just
Sam.
have one more quick
Yep.
administrative thing.
Yes,
That I wanted to bring to your attention. For those of you, I think all of you were here. This is all last summer. We were dealing with an issue with domestic ducks on the pond.
how did I know? I saw it on Facebook today. There were swans over there.
Yes, so I got an email last night. I saw it this morning from Patrick Brennan, who is the complainant about the ducks on the pond, advising me that, and I don't know anything about the swans. I went out there today to go and see if I could see them, if I could see them in the yard of the person who owns the ducks. I didn't see them out there. The ducks were out in her yard, but they were not on the pond. I didn't see any swans in her yard. But he believes that she has released those swans. There's a pair of them that he believes she has released onto the pond. And he has some concerns about the swans being territorial and basically scaring away native wildlife that's using the area. He also still has some concerns about the ducks. I am going to continue to look into it, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention that that issue is coming back full circle to us. So
It seems that the area is full now, that
it is. It's actually, it's in really good condition right now,
Okay.
from what I can tell.
I mean, there's been a ton of swans down here on Joppa Flats and all around the island, so.
Yeah, and I don't know that she is keeping them as pets. I am going to see, I'm still waiting to hear back if it's something that needs to go to the animal control officer to see if that's even, because I don't know if people are allowed to keep swans as pets, but I do know that mute swans are commonly found in coastal Massachusetts, all up and down the coast from southern Maine to Maryland and Virginia. So they very, very well could just be wild swans that decided to make a quick pit stop. But I don't know anything about where they came from or if they belong to someone. So hopefully
Well,
it's going to get looked into by somebody, because that's not really my.
Yeah, Sam, what I would
Purview.
suggest is we implemented a written complaint form. And in all honesty, if you don't get a written complaint form, then it hasn't reached the level of concern on someone's part, but good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Mary? Any other comments where we move to adjourn?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, Pete, how about yourself?
I'm good.
Diane, any comments?
Can we go another hour?
Yeah, well,
hungry.
not without a cocktail and a pizza maybe, but.
I'm good. Thank you.
okay. TJ,
But we
you all
don't do
set?
things like that in public meetings.
No, I know.
All good.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
Sure thing.
Second, okay, roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
TJ,
Yes, yes.
Diane, RDC.
yes.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone. Great
Yes.
meeting. And I still can't get close to Mary's record,
Yep.
but we're,
No,
I don't think
she holds
anybody
it.
ever will.
10 minutes, tough act to follow.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah. You weren't at that meeting, Bob. Maybe there's something there.
You know what? You know what, Diane? I'll have to do a little
Let
reflection
anybody
on
speak,
how it-
that's the problem,
yeah. Okay, guys. Good night. Thank
Hi,
you.
good night.